There's a version of the AI conversation that's dominated by people who work at desks, knowledge workers, software engineers, writers, people whose tools are screens and keyboards. And for those people, AI is already changing everything. But there's another world, one where people wear boots to work. They climb poles, crawl through pipes, hang on ladders with chainsaws, repair fridges in people's homes, and keep the infrastructure running that the rest of us take for granted. And for those people, AI has mostly meant one thing: more paperwork. Until now. Today I'm talking with Alex from Salesforce, who works at the intersection of field service operations and AI. We're going to explore what happens when AI actually shows up on the job site, not as a replacement for these workers, but as something that genuinely makes their day better. So this is a conversation about stories from the frontier where technology meets the world of physical work. Alex, welcome to the podcast. Before we get into any technology, paint me a picture. You spend time with field technicians and the companies that deploy them. What does a typical day look like for someone in this world?
Technology has been big lately as well, right? So I would say for us, we see multiple levels of productivity gain with AI for the field and I think, again, modality is important. Voice, images, AR glasses are becoming big for safety and speed of work as well. Edge AI as well, right? The technology, because voice, most of the LLMs we just need to remember, for us, it doesn't really matter. We're always connected to Wi-Fi. Field work is not always online. In fact, majority of the time, for certain customers of ours, it is offline. And you need to make sure that the technology we build either adapts to offline scenarios or we bring AI on edge, which is, I would say, still an active research and development problem. But also, a lot of it is about the context. If you think about the customers of Salesforce's, and we're working with big enterprises, right? And for example, we have one customer, Varian Medical. They're a manufacturer of MRI machines. We're talking enterprise scale, right? Multinational company, and they're maintaining these complex machines. Part of the question is, how do you, a technician or an engineer, arrive to the job prepared? And yes, I mentioned pre-work brief, right? But then it's not like pre-work brief. Brief is by definition short, right? You won't have all the information. How do you get access to all of the tools and systems that a company as big as Varian Medical or any other big heavy asset manufacturer or a big utility or a big home health company or a big, name it, right? Or even a medium company, how do you pull in all of those sources of data? And that's been another big question for us on how do we connect the data in Salesforce? And we have layers of the technology stack to do that. We call them Data 360, and MuleSoft is our technology as well. How do we integrate it? But then how do we surface it through retrieval augmented generation so that it will be accurate and only the bit that the technician needs? And I would say for us, as you mentioned, right, we folks who work on the desktop computers, it's been sort of a solved problem, and we've been doing this with ChatGPT for a while. But look, manuals are a thing, right? Our customers, you don't want to Google how do I fix an MRI machine. I mean, you and I can, right? You can probably look it up on ChatGPT. I don't know how accurate those results would be. So for our customers, the question is, how do we take the information that is absolutely accurate and up to date? And again, there is a set of manuals for one type, and there is a set of manuals for the other type of the machine. There is a third set of manuals for a third type of the machine. How do we structure the data for our customers so that it can be easily pulled? And it's not per se the AI itself, but it's the grounding work, right? That pre-work of data, which is so important when you're dealing with AI technology. How do you structure the data correctly so that you will get a good output? Because we can throw AI as a blanket on everything. But without the structure and the thought in it, you will end up with garbage in, garbage out.
Right. So you work with companies across utilities, HVAC, manufacturing, data center, very different industries. And I'm curious about any customer stories where there's a gap between what people at the office need from the technician and then what the technician actually needs and wants to do.
Let me give you an alignment story, right? Like when business, the back office and front office are fully aligned. AAA, I mentioned our customer, they've rolled out the pre-work brief functionality, which started saving technicians 5 minutes per job. Both sides were happy. Guys in the field said, look, this is fantastic. We don't need to deal with it. People on the back immediately did the math, back of the napkin, 5 minutes per job. How many jobs are they doing a week? How many jobs are they doing a month? How much time and savings does it give for them? So that's a perfect right? Perfect alignment, which we dealt with. But I do have an interesting example from the timesheets that I mentioned before. I can't name the customer explicitly, but I think it's known for every customer. The technicians care about getting paid, right? How many hours have I worked? 40 hours a week? Regular time, 40 hours a week. How much time and a half did I work? Now, on the back office, it's a little more complicated than that. Let's take any business that does heavy asset manufacturing, elevators, HVAC units, anything where you have customers and you are installing that equipment. Probably like Varian Medical probably would have the same situation. They don't just need to know how many hours did Alex work. They need to know how many hours did Alex spend in customer A, then for customer B, and then for customer C. And the reason is because customer A, B, and C have a contract. And that contract has a certain amount of service hours that, the companies subscribe to servicing. There is warranties, there is what's called entitlements, because they're billing. It's basically, in one word, it's a billing question. It's not only the payroll question for them, it's a billing question. So just knowing that Alex worked for 40 hours is not enough for them to do the billing because Alex serviced 10 people today. Now, a technician doesn't care. They're like, this is all your paper, right? Like, that's all the paperwork. I care about getting paid. So when we were designing the product, we needed to make sure that we get the technicians the summary of the hours that they're working, which again sounds very simple, right? How many hours did you work today? Did you hit your requirements? Good, submit. But then on the back end, we needed to break that time apart. And what we used is, in addition to, of course, voice input that I already mentioned, but I think actually a more elegant solution to that is geolocation-based automation. When a technician would arrive to an appointment, we would say, okay, this is the start when they're at customer A. Then they leave customer A, and we would say, okay, they left customer A, now they're driving, they've entered the territory around customer B. So behind the scenes, we could break apart the hours into the specific, how much time did each customer, take. So the back office ended up being happy. And then the technicians ended up being happy. It was a balance on our end. And, you meet with different stakeholders, and it's very different because you talk with the billing folks. They're like, well, no, 100% we have to mandate all of these techs to log in specifically how many hours they spend. And we're like, no, we can't do that because that would not, right, like that would hammer the productivity on your front of the house. Everybody's reasonable about it, but it requires some creative solutioning, which is why I'm in product, that's why I like building product, because you have to adjust to these different stakeholders for customers to make sure everybody's happy.
Yeah, no, I can see there's a lot of possibility for creative use of technology here. So let's talk about what's starting to change when sort of AI technology actually does work for a field technician, not just for the back office. Like other examples of what that looks like in practice, I'd love to hear them.
Yeah, 100%. So again, let me just go with voice to form. It's been our biggest hit recently when we've released it to the field. It's all about the time saving and the safety saving. We have this customer in the UK. They are called Work Dry Group. They're actually completing they're doing inspections of water treatment plants. And you need to understand the water treatment plant is not like an office that you're entering. It's loud, it's raining sometimes, it's outside, it's remote. And you're in full, bright, obviously hard hat, bright orange and yellow attire. It has to be very visible. Gloves, cold, wind. So they have deployed voice to form, and they're saying that they have reduced the completion of the surveys at the end of the jobs for engineers from 2 to 4 hours to 20 to 40 minutes. So 2 hours to 20 minutes, which is about 80%. So you can think about it, 80% you are cutting down, or, if it's 20% remaining, dividing by 5 is the time savings that we're talking about, right? And that's what we're seeing with more and more customers. And, I can go on and on, but it's not only about the timing part of it, it's also about the accuracy. Again, we all hate typing, especially when we're out and it's raining and I'm cold and I want to go home. What probably the listeners can relate to is filling out a long form on some website, right, that you don't want to fill out. So think about needing to fill out a long form like that on a mobile device while it's raining and it's windy and it's cold and you're on site somewhere, and that's what we're dealing with. That's what we're talking about. You can speak much more information. So customers are seeing two things, right? Not only the increase in efficiency, but also the increase in accuracy. Because since you can speak 125 words per minute, you can get much more info in, and it's easier. So they get higher quality of data. And to our conversation before this, the higher the quality of data on a survey is, the higher the quality of the brief that the next technician will get when they visit the site, the higher the quality of the analytics when you're looking at how, the assets are performing, how the machinery is performing. All of the quality of data is so important today, right? It's not just about reporting. It used to be about reporting, right? Is it accurate or not? No. We're talking about grounding data for the future and trend analysis for the future. That is what is extremely important to our customers and for future field visits. So that becomes paramount when the data has higher quality.
Yeah, this is interesting because when I reflect on my own usage of voice, some of my prompts are very, very long and they're foggy. I'll take detours. I will be scatterbrained, but they are much, much richer. I catch much more detail about what I'm trying to do. And because syntax is not so important, the AI can put things in the right buckets in the aftermath. It's not hard for me to imagine that somebody out there in situ as well doesn't have to remember it back at the office afterwards. Literally just you're inputting it as you go. You are probably able to capture so much richer context. And that's AI. I think an AI world is a world of rich context. The richer context you can feed the AI, the better everything works. So I can see those interfaces working out really well.
Right. And I don't want to overlook the control part of it, right? In our voice-to-form interface, technicians do proofread the form at the end because that was a non-negotiable requirements for the customers. Because, as you mentioned, right, sometimes if we speak for a long time, and it happens with me when I dictate or I speak with Claude or I speak with ChatGPT, sometimes certain context clues, because remember, we're talking jargon as well in the process, right? A lot of abbreviations, and that's actually what the team is currently actively looking at because it's language expansion for us and the support for technical, like specific technical abbreviations. You need to have that control because sometimes our friends LLMs interpret things in a certain way that is not always accurate, and so that's why it is important to have that final control and approval after the form is completed. But overall, right, that's again, it was a requirement. It helps technicians because when you're submitting a form in a field, you're basically signing for that information. So you want to know it's accurate. People welcome the tool to speed up the productivity and the input, but you also want to have the control over the final submission.
That's so interesting. So there's a lot of fear around AI replacing jobs, and I imagine that fear hits differently from people who do physical labor. So from what you're seeing on the ground, is there fear or what is happening here?
Look, AI is not fixing a hole in your roof anytime soon. Like that is actually, no, we see overwhelmingly in the field, again, if a feature is designed well, right, and if a product actually helps the technicians do their work, they welcome it. Look, voice input like 5 years ago, right, was not always possible. So we're talking about when we walk up to them and we're like, look, typing is dead. They say, yes, please, we want that. Like we would like to focus on the work that we can do physically. And you and I spoke about before, I think there are technologies in the physical world around robotics, which I think raise that question a little bit more importantly and sort of urgently around the replacement. But I think even robotic technology and specifically most of our customers work with drones, and drones are used for safety first. That is the main use case we see for drones. It can be a crawler in a pipe. No technician wants to crawl in a pipe. No technician wants to go in a nuclear facility or a gas facility when there is a leak potentially detected and go out there. They'd rather send a robotic dog or a rover. No technician wants to climb a utility pole without an extra need or climb a steep roof without an extra need. So even those tools, I'm seeing only more adoption of them from the technician side. Of course, it requires extra training, which is where I think some of the barriers are today. Those tools, everything that can help worker be safer is always welcome. And AI is there as well, right? For example, we actually Right, so Salesforce's field service and operations arm started, of course, we're not known for field service and operations, right? We started as a CRM company, and we're still a big CRM company. So what happened historically was we used to do sales, which is what Salesforce, right? And then we started powering service, right? Customer service call centers. So that was an extension of our CRM business. And then our customers asked us for break fix. They said, look, call center and cases and handling escalations is all cool for desk workers, but we need to send people out there and do something. Do you do break fix? So many years ago, we started Salesforce Field Service and Operations, which is where we brought in this new component of break fix, inspections, maintenance, repair, you name it, right? Any schedulable person who needs to go out and do work in multiple industries. But the reason I'm emphasizing it is because it still derives the power from our customer component. So when I'm talking about the field part, there's still a customer, right? If you are fixing an elevator in the building, you need to let the building know that you're coming. All of us have HVAC inspections every 6 months. I'm sure all of us get that email from our building or from our company that's saying, hey, this coming week you will have a technician visit. A big part of our AI investment is also on that front. How do you, as a customer, interact with the technician and make sure that they arrive on time? They let you know that they arrive on time. Scheduling, rescheduling of appointments, which actually can be done autonomously frequently these days, is also a big component of it, which, again, guys and gals in the field really appreciate. And the reason is they don't want to show up to an appointment or a job and the gates are locked. It's a wasted truck roll for the company, yes, but they also don't want to drive, right? We are talking, some of our customers operate in big states of California, internationally, right? It's a lot of driving. Nobody wants to do extra driving. Not to mention, back to safety, that extra driving is unsafe. Why would you do extra driving for the environmental purposes, safety purposes, and waste purposes if you know the customer is not available? So this AI that we're talking about may not directly interface with the folks who have boots on the ground, but it ends up helping them when they're actually arriving to do their job properly.
So Alex, if you could fast forward 5 years and there's one thing that has really changed for field technicians because of AI, what is a change you'd like to see?
I think 5 years, I'm just projecting, right? 10 years ago, we all wanted to see the death of a clipboard. I think technologically, we're there right now. Maturity-wise, we're there right now. I would push it further 5 years from now. I want to see the death of a mobile screen as well. I want it to be a wearable device, right? I also wanted to become what we call a hybrid workforce here at Salesforce. I think it's going to be only using the power of experienced boots on the ground when it's really needed, meaning when something needs to be fixed, something needs to be repaired, or it's an inspection which is very thorny and very complicated. I see the world where simple inspections are done by robots that do it safer and free up the time for the experienced folks to actually do the repair work or attend to escalations. And I think augmented reality will be a big part of that. It will be capturing imagery. It will be guiding the technicians through the work that they're doing. It will be capturing images, speaking to them, and they can speak back to it. Now, some of my colleagues may say that I'm overly optimistic, and maybe I am, but I think I see our power as the vendors who empower our customers to do two things. We need to make sure we help our customers evolve, because don't get me wrong, many of the companies and customers we work with still use clipboards and paper.
Right.
Because change management is hard. It's hard to replace a process. It's hard to modernize the systems. And I don't want to blame it on the customers. It's just what it is, right? It's big, it's big companies. So yes, we need to help them evolve and stay current, but we also should push the boundaries. For customers who are innovative, for customers who want to be our design partners, we have so many opportunities here at Salesforce to bring them through and really push it to the cutting edge of innovation.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I feel what you're saying feels pretty tractable already. I use advanced voice mode in ChatGPT with a video on all the time when I'm trying to figure things out. And people out there in situations where they're on a telegraph pole, giving them a interface that works for them, but access to this expert knowledge would be transformative. So I love that vision. If you are interested in where AI meets the physical world, the factories, the field, the infrastructure, that's what we're exploring here on the Format podcast. So thanks for helping us do that, Alex. We really appreciate your experience and sharing it with us.
Thank you.